Hello, welcome to this webinar live from Paris. I was delighted to be with you. Reuse is the future of packaging. That'll be the theme of our webinar today. We can all agree that packaging waste is a big problem in today's world and responsible for half the waste all over our planet. In EU countries alone, packaging waste generated was estimated at 178.1 kilogram per inhabitant in the EU in 2019. Paper and cardboard is typically the main packaging waste material. That's 32.3 million tonnes in 2019, followed by plastic, 15.4 million tonnes, and then others such as glass and metals, even with recycling rates as high as 82% for cardboard and paper products. Nevertheless, we all wonder what is a better way that we could do than simply use once and then just throw things away. I'm sure these are questions that you are asking yourself as much as we are. In this context, it's very reassuring to see that responsible companies such as Corplex and the Circular Plastics Alliance partners that are here today with me are coming up with actual solutions to these problems that are affecting our lives more and more. My name is Alex Taylor. I'm a European journalist. I'm delighted to be the host. And with me today is Lucas van der Schalk, is that the right Dutch pronunciation? Schalk, the CEO of Corplex, and Henk Kraas, who's director of the Circular Plastics Alliance. So I'm going to be asking you a few questions, but please, if you want to ask questions too, we'll be having 10 minutes at the end where both these gentlemen are going to be answering your questions. So please feel free to send them in the chat. Well, I'm going to start off with you, Lucas. You're the CEO of Corplex, as I said. A few words about your company.
Yes, so we are based in 11 countries around Europe as well as in the US. We produce what's called polypropylene fluted plastic, which really is like a plastic corrugated cardboard, as it were. It's the same sort of product. And we design, we manufacture, but we also recycle. So we do the whole loop.
Okay, so your mission, if we can call it a mission, is to accelerate the transition to a circular economy for plastics. What prompted you to take on this mission and to make it a central pillar of what you do?
So plastics is perfectly suited for the circular economy because you can use it and recycle it and recycle it and reuse it and recycle it and use it. So that's brilliant from that. The other thing is we have single-use plastics everywhere which need a secondary product to go into. Our product is perfectly suited to that. So the fundamentals of improving the use and reducing waste is fundamentally based in our product because it's so good to be able to put recycled materials through and then apply it for many years afterwards.
Now, obviously, the circular economy is a bit of a buzzword at the moment, so we're all talking about it a lot, although nobody seems to be very sure exactly how it functions and how we can transition to what is a zero waste model. So that's why we're delighted to have with us Henk Kraas, your director of the Circular Plastics Alliance, based in the Netherlands. Maybe you could start by telling us today about the need you saw in today's society to bring together what appear to be a bunch of seemingly unrelated companies, and what exactly is this alliance trying to achieve?
Yeah, we come from a third generation family business in the recycling, and we see that there's a lot of changes in the market. And those changes are driven by regulations regarding packaging, regarding recycled content. And we see and we learn that we have to, if we want to change this business, we want to change to the need and the demand of the changes in the world. We need to work together, and we need to gather together and bring all the knowledge, bring all the development, and share with each other to bring this to the actual level.
I think it'd be good if you gave us some concrete examples of what companies your alliance has brought together towards a reusable packaging model.
We have about more than 50 members and partners at the moment in the alliance, and they are from different market segments. They are from different plastic technologies, as Corplex, as an example, and we are really focusing on creating the closed loop, do the development with the recycled raw materials and bring that into a packaging, and most likely a reusable packaging.
Okay, well, let's talk about closed loop, because I think it's central to Corplex and the Circular Plastic Alliance, the notion that supply chains ought to be organised in these the closed loops to return packaging. Why exactly is that, and what is the difference, if you could explain to me, between a circular economy and a closed loop?
Yes, so a circular economy, the cardboard business talks about this a lot. They have a circular economy, but it means they use it once, they then throw it away, and then it gets used for something else. And so therefore there's actually waste that comes with that. In a closed loop economy, the materials stay within that loop all the time. So best example is the automotive industry, where we will produce big boxes where they put their components into. Those components get shipped to their customer, usually BMW or someone like that. They take the parts out, put them in the cars, the box collapses and closes down into a third of the size, and then gets it back to their factory where they open it up again, and they use it 7 years. And at the end of the 7 years, the box comes back to us, we grind it up, and we make a new box out of it. So the material never leaves the loop. When we talk about plastics in the environment, the reason why plastics end up in the environment is because they get sent out. Whereas if we control that material the whole time when we put them back into the system, then that's a closed loop system.
And is the automobile industry the only one that's using this system?
The automobile industry has been using a lot of that, but we are now pushing that out into the other areas. So actually, beer crates is another system like that, but what we're trying to do now is move very much into the horticultural industry, some of the agricultural industry, all the secondary packaging for materials, which allow us to control that loop, and means that the materials don't ever end up in the environment, because we all know that plastic has been demonized because of the environment.
Yeah, I've just moved actually, and I've heard so much. I don't know what to do with all these cardboard boxes, so I'm listening to you and thinking it would be a very useful thing to do. So obviously it makes a lot of sense. Also, it saves on cost, because ultimately, if you reuse things, even if they're a bit more expensive at the beginning, you save costs and efficiency. So, Henk, for companies who are considering adopting a reusable packaging model, what changes would they have to make necessarily to change their current linear logistics methods?
What we have started as an example in the horticulture, as Lucas mentioned, and in the horticulture industry, in the flower industry, is a lot of business in Holland.
Very Dutch, yes,
very Dutch as well. Yeah,
tulips.
thank you. And there is a lot of packaging being used, a lot of single-use packaging. So we call them as a launching partner. This market could be a launching to do the development and to show that we are able to. And in the reusable packaging that is introduced in the horticulture industry, you bring the knowledge again with the users, and you do with the launching partners, you do a lot of trials, and you can reset the errors. And then you can go to a complete new rollout of a complete new system, where the reusable packaging will replace the single-use packaging.
Okay, well, Lucas, you're the packaging manufacturer expert here. So I'm a company. I find what you're saying very convincing. But how do I go about choosing what products to use, and how do I go about changing my practices?
So for us, it's important to start looking at the secondary packaging, and it's the loops that exist with that. So in the flower industry that Henk suggested, they control all of the steps in their supply chain. So therefore they can also control the products that come in and out. You can't go and try and replace packaging that comes from China and send it back to China. But something where you've got a loop of anywhere between 50 and 250 kilometers.
Why the China thing? Why can't you replace it?
Because actually to ship your reusable packaging from China back to China costs too much money.
Okay.
And so therefore actually that short loop happens. But if we actually look at more and more the onshoring that happens in the world today, people are trying to do everything more locally. We don't want to get our milk from Spain or from somewhere else. We want to try and get it from local areas. So those loops are getting smaller, and they're perfectly suited for the reusable packaging that comes through.
Okay, well, many of those packaging characteristics to be found in cardboard. It's collapsible, different sizes fit to different contents. It's a monomaterial, recycled and recyclable. Tell us, Henk, why should companies look at plastic alternatives when cardboard is already so widely used, and it does. I mean, a lot of cardboard gets recycled quite a lot, so the rates are not bad.
It's not bad, as Lucas also mentioned, but it's the emissions to produce and to recycle the plastics in general are better if you use it multiple times. And it's not only on the emissions, it's also, we say it's ecology and economy goes together. So because you use reusable packaging, you're saving a lot of money because you can use it up to 100 times. And still it keeps a residual value. Because when you turn it back for recycling, you get a refund for the material again. And we make a new box out of it.
Okay, so what are the actual benefits then, Lucas, if I asked you to define those, of adopting reusable plastic packaging? Because I think we're starting to see that it could be quite a good idea, but are the benefits mainly environmental or they're mainly financial or both?
Well, the interesting element is that actually they've become both. So one of our customers approached us because they were looking at the environmental bit. They didn't like the impact of cardboard boxes, having to throw those away and then using them just once. When we then ended up doing some trials with them, they've actually found that they can save almost a third of their costs in total. And in this particular case, we're talking about millions rather than hundreds or thousands even. So that's on the one hand really, really good. The other thing is environmental. So recycling a ton of plastic generates about 180 kilos of CO2, and recycling a ton of cardboard, 330. And not to mention the water.
People don't know this, though.
Absolutely. People are unaware, and it's because everyone thinks that cardboard's great, because it has a very extensive recycling infrastructure. But actually, when you do cardboard, you need water, you need a lot of heat because you put water into it, but water and cardboard don't mix, so therefore you need to put heat into it, you need to put pressure into it to get the water out. So you put water into then take it out again. Well, that's just a waste of energy.
Okay, well it sounds more like common sense that recycling is good for the planet. The fact that pales in comparison to the advantages of what you're describing of reusing packaging. From your perspective, Henk, you're a recycler yourself. Do you think we can actually do this and recycle our way out of packaging waste? Or is this a bit of a pipe dream?
The best waste is not to waste it, as mentioned. What's important, recycling is also improving. The technology of recycling is getting better and better. What is important that we share with each other what means design for recycling. What kind of labels are you using on packaging? What kind of load carriers are you using? What kind of strappings or what kind of new technology regarding RFIDs or tracking and tracing systems. And so the design for recycling and also very important to use mono materials, because the mono materials, they stay always.
What do you mean mono materials?
Mono materials means don't use different kind of plastics in one packaging.
Okay.
So try to approach it to we call it the polyolefin world. Most of the polyolefins is PE and PP because they are very well go together. So in different applications there are very high-end possibilities.
Okay, well, both of you have been mentioning the fact that it's important to forge partnerships to achieve what you're talking about, to establish different networks. Why is this notion of working together so central to reusable packaging systems, Henk?
Now, to go from a linear to a circular economy means that we keep all the raw materials in the loop. You mentioned you don't go from China back to China is crossing all over the world. But when you create the loops, in Holland we say when you take a circle around the church and you stay in that circle, it's very easy to modify everything.
You say that in Dutch, do you?
Yes, we say that in Holland. Yes.
Okay. What does it mean?
No, I mean a circle around the church.
Okay.
Geographically.
Okay.
So in essence, what it also means is that you get the people who know what they do doing the things that they know best what to do. So with Gus to do the recycling, I'm going to leave them to do the recycling. Let me make the boxes. Let someone else go and pick them up. And so therefore you actually create not only a network of people who know best what they do, but also you create an advantage in that those people work together and they can make sure that that knowledge and everything that's going on is proprietary. And that benefits the customers.
So there's also an aspect of regional networking to do
Absolutely.
with this. That
Absolutely.
people should rely a lot more on not doing things, shipping things half around the world.
I think that's a very valid point. And we are talking more and more about onshoring. And again, that's where the reusable packaging comes into its own if it doesn't get shipped too far.
But that's why it's also important that as we work in an alliance to bring all the parties together and to share this with each other and to create this development.
How do you best do that, though? I mean, there seems to be quite a lot of will to do this, but what does your alliance involve in terms of motivating people in actual concrete terms to get together?
We are mostly the most companies who are entering our alliance are active companies. They want to change and they want to be the launching partner in their market or in their segment, and so they are also really active together with us. And most of the time, we can in the alliance we have a lot of know-how, so we can quickly show them a proof of concept. With Corplex, we can act very quickly to create a design of a box. And within 2 weeks or 3 weeks, they have it to try it, to do a pilot. And then that is many people around the world talking about those things, and we do it. And I think that's a big difference.
And when you say around the world, to what extent is it European, around the world? Or?
I mean, just general, around the world. If you're looking about the changes of the market and the legislations and everything, we really, in our alliance, we're really actively going together with our partners, going into the deep and try to do the development and try to go to reusable packaging and closed loop.
Okay, Lucas, just to finish before we come to questions, what would you say were the key business conditions to adopt reusable packaging? If I asked you to conclude by defining them, what would they be?
So, first of all, it's important to look at your secondary and your tertiary packaging. One of the things that we're not going to be able to change straight away are the PET bottles that will get thrown away. So let's look at what other bits we can do. So for us, it's a small loop, like I said, between 50 and 250 kilometers, or maybe a bit further, where you can keep these things going. It's the reuse, and then after the reuse, the recycling of it, which actually is just reusing that raw material, making it into a new thing. And if you keep that within relatively small pockets of distance, you reduce CO2. You reduce CO2 not just on trucks, but you can use other things like trains, and electric vehicles become more and more important on that. And then the other thing is that CO2 comes a big reduction because of like what we've experienced with this LCA study that we've done. Clearly, after 7 uses, plastic is a much better solution because it uses far less CO2.
One question from me, and then we'll come to the questions that you've been sending in. But it occurs to me, as I say, I've just moved, and I have all these cardboard boxes, and I don't know what to do with them. And it did, when I was moving, because I was preparing for this, it was something that occurred to me for the first time, because I've always thought, well, cardboard is much better than plastic. To what extent is there a great gap between what you're trying to do and public consumer awareness? Because in our minds now, plastic is bad, cardboard is good. It's going to be difficult for you to change the public way of thinking. Perhaps one word from both of you on that, and then I'll come to your questions.
So the key bit is this reusability element of it, and the fact that you can use plastic many, many times. So cardboard, because of the length of the fiber, you can recycle 7 times, and after that it's dust and you have to burn it. Plastic, you can recycle 10, 20 times, and not only that, when you get to 10, 20 times, it's 10, 20 years, because you'll reuse the product for a whole year before you then have to go and recycle it. So that's a big, big difference.
But how would that work for me as in my move, plastic? Because what would I do with the plastic?
So for instance, if you had done that and you bought your boxes from a moving company, they, instead of buying those boxes, you could have rented them off them. They would have given you plastic boxes. They would have given you 100 of those. And then you would have called them up and say, I'm finished with my boxes, now will you come pick them up? And they come pick them up, take them away, and then they break it.
That would have actually been good, because the town I've moved to, it's very hard to put. I've got told off for putting a cardboard box out in the streets. They're now back in my cupboard. How do we change our perceptions?
No, I fully agree with Lucas. The good thing is, when you keep the plastics or the raw materials on a good, proper way, and don't dispose them and don't waste them or don't landfill them, they are one of the best products in the world.
Let's go to your questions. You've been sending in a few. How can we value the waste materials concerning the current transport costs? Who would like to take that one?
I think if you look to the projects that we worked in the last 2 years in our alliance, 60-70% after research we found out that we can make use of existing logistic moves already. So there are no additional cost. It's just sharing the spaces that trucks and trains and any movements or shipments or logistics are already there.
Okay, what about transport from you?
Yes, so the back transport, which is the big one that people talk about, is one that needs to be optimized. And the beauty is we actually have a product which allows you to fill the truck much better, even with odd-shaped products. So if you put bags into that, we then have what we call a sleeve, which allows you to put a pallet on top of the bag.
Hold on, how do you do that? You see you have a product to do it. It sounds exciting. What do you do?
So we have a plastic U-shaped sleeve, we call it, which is about the same size as a pallet. And because it's U-shaped, you put it in the truck, you put your bag underneath it, and then you can put another one on top of that. And in front of that, you put your next U-shaped sleeve, you put your bag in, and you put something on top of that. So all of that optimization of truck space is something that all of our products can do as well.
We don't know about this is going on, do we? I mean, I've learned quite a lot. Another question that you've sent in, how can we compare the weight impact of a heavier reusable packaging over a lighter single-use option for transport?
I'll take that.
Okay.
So actually, the corrugated plastic that we use, what we call the extruded fluted plastic, it's the same weight, if not lighter, than cardboard. The other thing that happens is, of course, cardboard is hygroscopic, so it takes on water. So, and when it does, it becomes less strong. In plastic, that's not the case. So whether you use it at minus 35 degrees or almost at plus 60 degrees, it almost has the same mechanical properties throughout that temperature range, whereas in cardboard, that's not actually the case. So it's the same weight, because it's by virtue of the product that it is.
Okay, and don't forget, it's foldable. So
Yes.
when on the return logistics, it's folded, so it's saving a lot of weight as well.
Yeah, and I think that's a very valid point. If you fold the cardboard box, you can fold it 2-3 times and it will rip. The plastic box will fold 100 times. We have experience of that, and then you can reuse it.
Doing stress tests,
Yes.
apparently. Another question, is there any upcoming legal regulations about single-use packaging?
Yes, definitely. There are in certain countries there's already announced, like in the UK and in Spain they announced for coming January, I guess. And in the EU up to 25 there will come in regulations regarding recycled content. And we expect that there will be also a pushment up to reusable packaging in the future.
It ties in with another question here. I don't know if you want to go here, but why are some countries better at all this than others? Is it a cultural thing?
I think certainly politics in every country is a little bit different, and sound bites are important. I think what's very interesting in the UK, now that it's in Brexit, it's using politics in sound bites, whereas in Europe you can't isolate yourself from the rest of Europe. So actually the European Union is pushing particularly reuse a lot. And I think that's, for me personally, it's one of the real ways of going, because actually every time you recycle something, it uses energy, it creates waste. Reuse doesn't do that.
Somebody wants to know if COVID and Ukraine have helped make people more sensitive to what you're trying to do, because obviously we've got supply chain problems and packaging problems. Have this made things easier for you? I think that's the sense of what they're trying to say. Or has it made it harder?
I think in production and in development, it's delayed, of course, especially during the COVID time. But if you look to the raw material supply and the need of raw materials, it helped us, absolutely.
Somebody else asking, can you give us some concrete examples of things that you've done and which have really moved the cause on?
Yes, so one of my favorite examples is actually the Comirnaty, so the COVID-19 vaccine created by Pfizer. As you know, that vaccine needs to be stored at minus 70 degrees, and it's stored in our boxes. The reason why it's stored in our boxes, again, because it's plastic, It can stand those temperatures. It doesn't retain water, and it's reused. So these boxes are reused about 5 times. And part of the reason why they're reused is because they're very easy to disinfect. They're very easy to fold down and reuse, and they're clean. And that's the key bit. So in any pharmaceutical application, and we do a lot of pharmaceutical applications, the idea of having fibers which get wet, which little animals love, is unthinkable. And in plastic, of course, that's not the case.
Okay, one from you, one example.
Yes, I think in our alliance, we also developed a recycled flower film, and 2 years ago they were blaming us that you couldn't see the flowers in it because of the recycled content. And nowadays we are from the north of Scandinavia to the south of Spain. We are in each retailer. You can find our film, and now everyone is very happy with it. And sometimes I make a joke. I prefer the people buy the flowers, they put it in the bin, and they put the plastic on the table.
Well, that's certainly a solution. One person saying, I'm getting the impression from watching you that what you're talking about is very much European initiative. To what extent do you have links with what's happening in you did mention that it's a worldwide thing, but we have been talking about European examples. Is Europe going to be able to change things dramatically? And are other parts of the world ahead of Europe or behind Europe, or where do we stand?
So the European legislation is certainly the most advanced. The other thing that Europe has is actually we're smaller communities. So if you compare it to USA, but even in Asia. Having said that, in America, we're doing a very, very big project we've done it with some big retailers on returnable packaging. Again, for them, it's very, very important to be able to fill the space in trucks. So even in the US, that's now becoming important at $7 a gallon. And our packaging, in the fact that it collapses and can be erected again, can be put anything can be put into it, and you can stack them up and fill your truck, is what's key to that. And then, of course, for them, the big advantage is at the end of 10 years, 5 years of life, it gets sent back. We make the same packaging again. So, yes, European legislation is driving some of that, but actual commercial sense is driving that in other countries.
Absolutely.
How do we compare?
No, I think USA, absolutely, and Asia will come very soon. They will follow. They will follow us. We're also in contact with different companies and different also launching partners in those countries. Even our flower film, our recycled film, is introduced in the USA since the last month. So we make steps.
We're going there. Somebody says, thank you very much for this presentation. In the recycling process, are there small parts of plastic that are lost and can create pollution, or is everything reused and nothing lost?
So the beauty of plastics, again, and as the leader of a business, one of the things we focus on is money. And if you let that plastic go, you're throwing money away. So I'm very, very focused on that, and my people know very clearly that all of that stuff needs to be reused. Microplastics is one of the things we talk about, which are much, much smaller, but we also have pellets. We have, within each of our factories, systems to capture those pellets and reuse them. Because even half a kilo at the moment, a kilo of plastic costs about €2. I don't let €2 go very happily, so we capture all of that.
Is there less of a problem with microplastics? Because about 10 years ago, there were a lot of microplastics, I mean, even in shampoo and things like that. No, people seem to not accept that anymore.
Correct. No, so the microplastics is something that is driven by the single-use plastics that end up in the environment. Again, we are not focusing on single-use plastics, we're focusing on reusable plastics that stay within the loop. So one of the concepts that we have with our customers is to say, look, you give me your box back, I'll give you a new box. And I will use that material. I'm not going to put new material because they won't pay for that new material. So the closed loop environmental considerations are significant.
Okay, one final question. It's good for a kind of conclusion. What can, oh no, we have another one coming. I'll give you that one afterwards. This is a nice conclusion. Can you offer some pointers to encourage suppliers to go to reusable plastic packaging? Well, it does actually fit in with the last one as well, which is what can we as consumers insist on in order to change people's behaviour in light of what we've been talking about? This will be your final conclusion. So I'll start with Henk.
Yeah, I think the consumers they can push. For example, if most consumers every day go to a retailer, to a supermarket, or to anything like that.
But they're not going to listen to me if I go in and say, I'm not going to buy your packaging, and they'll say, well, go somewhere else.
But you see the trend that the retailers start to do pilots and start to offer some of the alternatives, and you see that it's like when one start to try it, more people will follow, and I think that's what an important thing to push it into the consumers.
So the weight of pressure of people continually not accepting.
Reusable packaging is the future.
Absolutely. Okay.
So
Lucas.
we have a very good example with a company called Cuisine Schmidt. So Cuisine Schmidt make kitchens which fit into people's houses. So they come in with all of their gear and all of their stuff and would leave a load of packaging in the back garden or in the front yard after they'd finished. Consumers complained about this, said we do not want this to happen. So Cuisine Schmidt turned to us and said, right, how can we do this? How can we provide the customer a solution that doesn't need any packaging, that is not used after it's been discarded? So we created boxes where they put the single panels in with no plastic on it because it's protected, with no cardboard or anything else. They come with these boxes. They take the panels out and they fit them. The boxes collapse down, and so the consumer is super happy because A, the house is not filled with rubbish, and B, the boxes that collapse down don't take up any space. Moreover, the fitters love it because they're far less to carry. There's no space that's taken up by all this rubbish, and it's working a treat.
Thank you. Well, I've certainly learned a lot from this program and about thinking out of the box, whether the box be plastic and hopefully not too much cardboard in the future. Thank you anyway to both of you. That's Lucas van der Schalk, who's the CEO of Corplex, and Henk Kras, Director of the Circular Plastics Alliance. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for sending in the questions. I hope we gave you some ideas and answered some of the things that you've been asking. Thank you very much for watching, and from all of us here in Paris, goodbye.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you, Alex.